Golden State Media Concepts Baseball Podcast. We cover everything Major League, from spring training to the World Series. We've got your favorite club covered, from New York to Boston to LA. This is the Golden State Media Concepts Baseball Podcast.
And welcome back, everybody, to the GSMC Baseball Podcast. My name is Patrick Kenny, and I'm going to be your host for today's episode. I think we have a decent episode for y'all today. So what we're first going to be looking at is obviously our regular stats and standing updates. That's going to be a kind of a common occurrence here for, at least for my episodes. I'm just going to kind of update y'all on where everybody is on the day I'm recording it, which is usually the day before the episode posts. So I just want to let y'all know that. So we're going to go through our standings updates, our stats updates, and then we got a live look real quick at Shane Bieber and Garrett Cole. They're probably the two leading Cy Young candidates in the American League so far. Right now, I think Jacob deGrom's kind of running away with it in the NL. But right now, in the American League, it's kind of Shane Bieber versus Garrett Cole. And then after that, we have a the Max Sherzer deal potential, like where his potential landing spots will be. And then after that, I have my power rankings for this upcoming season. So with that being said, let's get into it. So right now, our OPS leader is the best player in baseball. It is Mike Trout. He has a 1,325 OPS, which is amazing. He's doing so good this season, and he didn't get off to like a super fast start like guys like Nicholas Castellanos and stuff did, but he definitely didn't shy away from anything like that. I don't know if shy away is kind of the thing that I meant to say, but I think what I mean to say is he was just so consistent, and he has consistently been playing at this level since the start of the season, just about 24 days ago on the day I'm recording this. So Mike Trout is our league leader right now in OPS. Then we have Ronald Acuna Jr. He has a 1,294 OPS, followed by JD Martinez. JD has a 1,179 OPS. Then Yerman Mercedes has a 1,161 OPS. And then Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is in 5th place. A few points ahead of Justin Turner in 6th. He has a 1,147 OPS. Now going over to our league leader in average, that is going to be Yerman Mercedes. He has played in 17 games, had 63 at-bats, and with 27 hits so far. He has 5 doubles, 4 home runs, 15 RBIs, 4 walks, and 10 strikeouts. And that means that so far he has a 4.29 average, which is a good deal higher than the next candidate, and that's going to be Brandon Nimmo. Granted, Brandon Nimmo does not have nearly as much at-bats. He's about 14 less at-bats with his 49 compared to Yerman Mercedes' 63 at-bats, and he has 20 hits out of his 49 at-bats, tallying a 408 batting average. He has 4 doubles, 1 home run, and 8 RBIs with 8 walks as well, and 14 strikeouts. Then Ronald Acuna Jr. is in 3rd place right now. He has had 66 at-bats with 26 hits, which is a 394 batting average at the moment. He has had 6 doubles, 1 triple, 7 home runs, 16 RBIs, 9 walks, and 10 strikeouts. And then Mike Trout is in 4th. He has 56 at-bats so far this season, 22 hits, 5 doubles, 6 home runs, 12 RBIs, 14 walks, and 20 strikeouts with a 3.93 batting average. And then Jesse Winker is in 5th place for league leaders. He's played in 14 games so far with 55 at-bats. He has had 21 hits, scored 11 runs, 21 hits out of his 55 at-bats, which is 4 doubles, 1 triple, 3 home runs. 10 RBIs have come out of those, 6 walks, and 12 strikeouts and he has a 3.82 ERA so far. Now our league leader so far in home runs is going to be Ronald Acuna Jr., Nicholas Castellanos, and JD Martinez. All 3 of those players have hit 7 home runs so far this year, and then there are a whole bunch of guys tied for 4th place with 6 home runs. Some of those guys include Tyler Naquin, Rafael Devers, Ryan McCann, Nelson Cruz, Byron Buxton, Javier Baez, and then the rest of them, or a lot of guys, are tied for 15th place with 5 home runs this year. It's still early in that department, so there's going to be a lot of guys that are tied for a similar situation kind of thing. And first place in hits, though, is Xander Bogaerts and JD Martinez. They are both tied for first place with 28 hits. In 3rd place, all alone, is Yermin Mercedes. He has 27 hits. In 4th place is Ronald Acuna Jr. He has 26 hits so far this season. And then tied for 5th place is Mitch Haniger, the right fielder for Seattle. And then Justin Turner, obviously the 3rd baseman for the Dodgers. He has 25 hits, or they both have 25 hits so far this season. Now, so far in the RBI category is JD Martinez leading the way with 21 RBIs. Then Tyler Naquin is in 2nd with 18 RBIs. And then Javier Baez, Rafael Devers, Mitch Haniger, Nate Lowe, the first baseman for the Rangers. All of those guys are tied for 3rd place with 17 RBIs. And then there are a few guys tied for 7th place with 16 RBIs. Some of those guys are like Ronald Acuna Jr., David Peralta, Kyle Seager, Justin Turner. And then now going over to pitching stats so far this year, and the league leaders in in solo pitching so far. So Jacob deGrom by far has the best ERA in baseball. I wouldn't say actually by far, because there are some guys that are pretty close, but the fact that he has right now, it's actually kind of just a fun stat, but he has right now at this exact moment more RBIs with 2 than earned runs given on the mound with 1. So Jacob deGrom is our league leader so far in ERA. He has a 2-1 record, a .31 ERA in the 4 games that he's played. He has 1 complete game shutout, which happened just the other day. He has had 29 innings pitched so far this year, 50 strikeouts as opposed to 3 walks. He's given up 2 home runs, but only one of his runs have been earned, that he's given up. Opponents are hitting just a .34 off of him, and he has a .55 whip. In 2nd place in ERA is Corbin Burns. He also has a 2-1 record out of the 4 games that he has pitched in. He has a .37 ERA with 24 1/3 innings. He's given up just 8 hits, only 1 earned run as well, and that was a home run. He has hit 3 batters and struck out 40 people. And then his opponents are hitting just .098 on him, under 100, which is nuts. And people are also hitting under 100 on our next guy on the list, which is Carlos Rendon. He has a 3-0 record in the 3 games that he has started so far. He obviously no-hit the Cleveland Indians just a few days ago, and so he is having a fantastic season so far this year. In 4th place is Marcus Stroman. He also has a 3-0 record. He has a .9 ERA out of the 3 games that he has started in the 20 innings that he has thrown. He has given up 10 hits, just 2 earned runs, one of those being a home run. He has walked 3 batters and struck out 11. Opponents are hitting about a .50 off of him, and he has a .65 whip. In 5th place is Lance Lynn. He has a 1-1 record in the 3 games that he has started. He has a .92 ERA. He has had 1 complete game shutout in the 19 2/3 of innings he has pitched in. He has had 16 hits given up against him, with 2 earned runs against him as well. He has struck out 27 batters while only walking 2, and he has a opponents hitting about 213 off of him. So out of all of those guys, he's definitely getting hit the most as opposed to the innings pitched. But overall, I mean, all of those guys are having great seasons so far. Our league leader right now in strikeouts is Jacob deGrom. Obviously, he struck out a whole bunch of batters in his last his last outing. He struck out 15 batters, I believe, and in his last 3 games, he has struck out at least 14 batters. So he has pitched in 4 games, and he has surpassed Shane Bieber for the strikeout total so far out of everybody this year. And he has 50 strikeouts on the year, and second is Shane Bieber with 48, and then we have Tyler Glasnow in third with 46, Corbin Burns in fourth for Milwaukee with 40, and then in fifth is Garrett Cole with 39. And then the next guy is Hugh Darvish and Joe Musgrove. They have both struck out 37 batters. So now we're going to go over and do some standing updates here in just a second. And so right now in the AL East, the Boston Red Sox are 13-8 in first place of the division. They are doing very well this year. They might be one of the best teams in baseball, which is really impressive. Tampa Bay is in second in the AL East. They are 10-10 with a .500 record, 2.5 games back out of first place and just a half game back out of the wild card. And then Toronto is 9-10. They are 3 games back out of first place and a full game back out of the wild card spot. In fourth place in the AL East, or tied for fourth place, I should say, are the Yankees and the Orioles. The Yankees and the Orioles both have a record of 8-11. Both of them are 4 games back out of first place and 2 games back out of the wild card. In the AL Central, in last place in the AL Central is Detroit. The Tigers are 7-13. They are 5 games back out of first place, 3.5 games back out of the wild card. Then it is Minnesota, my pick to win that division. They are 7-11. They are 4 games back out of first place and 2.5 back out of the wild card. In third place is the Cleveland Indians. They are 8-10. They have a .444 winning percentage. They are 3 games back out of first place and 1.5 back out of the wild card. And then in second place is the Chicago White Sox. They are 10-9. They are a game and a half back out of first place, but they do have a wild card spot right now. And that is very impressive considering the fact that this is actually a really close division and all of these teams are really talented. But the fact that the Kansas City Royals are 11-7 right now at this point in the season and have a sole possession of first place is ridiculous. Like, it's crazy to me that they have had so much success so far this year. It's crazy. And then going over to the AL West, Oakland has first place on lock. They are 13-7 after a rough start. They are finally starting to come through a little bit for their fan base. And my goodness, are they doing well. They are in a 12-game winning streak, which is the best in the bigs by far right now. They have, in their last 10, obviously they're 10-0. They are doing so good right now, and they've finally gotten their run differential back to 0. It is 0. They have given up 93 runs, but they have also scored 93 runs. And after their rough start at the beginning of the season, that is very impressive. Seattle is in second place in the AL West. They are 12-8, 1 game back out of first place, and 1.5 games up in the wild card. Then you go to third place. The Los Angeles Angels are 9-9, obviously a .500 record. They are 3 games back out of first place in the AL West and just a half game back out of the last wild card spot. Then the Houston Astros are 9-10 in fourth place in the AL West. They are 3-5 and 1 game back, they are 3 games back out of first place and 1 game back out of the wild card. Then you go to fifth place. It is the Texas Rangers. They are 9-11. They have a .45 winning percentage. They are 4 games back out of first place and 1.5 games back out of the wild card spot. Now, it is important to remember to all you AL Central fans that it is, or excuse me, not Central fans, but just American League fans, if your team happens to be in the American League, and this goes for the National League as well, that it is so early in the season, and as we saw with teams like the Red Sox and the Oakland Athletics, you can get off to a bad start and then all of a sudden just turn it around like that, and then you're at first place in the division after a long winning streak or something like that. But right now what the A's are doing, it is amazing how good they've been the last few games. Going out to the National League, we'll start out in the National League West. In last place in the West right now, the Colorado Rockies have that place I would say on lock. They are 7-12 so far this year. They are 6.5 games back out of first place and 3.5 games back out of the wild card spot. At 9-11 in fourth place is the Arizona Diamondbacks. They are 5 games back out of first place and 2 games back out of the wild card spot. At third place is the San Diego Padres. My pick to win the National League right now, and I'm sticking to it. I'm sticking to my guns, although I am still high on the Mets, but the Dodgers are really good. The Dodgers, if they get on a winning streak, the Dodgers could potentially be one of the best teams of all time. But in third place, the San Diego Padres, they are 12-10. They are 3 games back out of first place, but they do have that second wild card spot on lock. And then that brings me to the San Francisco Giants. They are in second place in the NL West. They are 13-7, 1 game back out of first place and 2 games up on the wild card. So that means they have first place or the first wild card spot, and they are 2 games ahead of the next closest person. Then going to the Dodgers at first place. They are 14-6. They are 6-4 in their last 10. They have lost 2 in a row, so they're not doing great at the moment, but they're still the best team in baseball right now. At the very least, right now, they are the best team in baseball, and I feel like that can't be really disputed with how good that they have been. In the NL Central, Milwaukee leads the division right now. They are 11-8, and obviously in first place. They are 6-4 in their last 10. They're still positive in the run differential column. And then in second place in that division is the 10-9 Chicago Cubs. They are 1 game back out of first place and then a half game back behind the Padres for that second wild card spot. Then you go down to third place. It is a 2-way tie for third place right now. The Cincinnati Reds and the St. Louis Cardinals are both 9-10, 2 games back out of first and 1.5 back from that wild card spot. And then in the cellar at the moment is the Pittsburgh Pirates. They're a little surprising this year, actually, just because they're staying in this division race right now. And if they can keep the gap reasonable, I would say that if they can keep the gap reasonable, I would say that it's a possibility that the Pirates make a run at the playoffs. If this division stays as close as it is right now and how close I think it'll be at the end of the year, the Pittsburgh Pirates very well may be the National League Central champions, and they might end up in a playoff spot in a rebuilding year, which is kind of amazing. But for right now, they are in the cellar, just 2.5 back out of first place, though, and then 2 games back out of the wild card. And then going to the NL East for our last standings update for today, the Washington Nationals are in last place, in 5th place in the National League East. They are 7-10, 2 games back out of first, 2.5 back out of the wild card. Then the Miami Marlins are 8-11. They are 2 games back out of first place, 2.5 back out of the wild card. Then tied for second are the Atlanta Braves and the Philadelphia Phillies. They are both 9-10. Both teams are 1 game back out of first place and both 1.5 back out of the wild card spot. And then in first place are the rain delay champions New York Mets. They are 8-7 so far this year. The only team in the East to have a winning record, which is actually kind of surprising because of how good this division is. But The New York Mets currently are 6-4 in their last 10. They have won their last game. They are 3-6 so far on away teams. When they are the away team, they are 5-1 at home. But against teams that are above 500 right now, they are 0-3 in the only times that they played somebody above 500. So that's going to do it for our first segment here. After this one, we're going to be taking a quick look at Shane Bieber and Garrett Cole, and to see really who deserves the Cy Young right now, and to see who might win this matchup.
This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
All right, so welcome back to the GSMC Baseball Podcast. So it's a bit early, definitely, to start talking about the Cy Young Awards because of how early in the season it still is. But when you have a matchup like Shane Bieber versus Garrett Cole, which y'all will already know the results of by the time y'all hear this podcast, but I don't know the outcome yet. With that being said, though, like, Shane Bieber is the reigning AL Cy Young Award winner, and Garrett Cole is one of the best pitchers in baseball the last few years, and it's two of the four pitchers with at least a 1 WAR so far this season. There are only four pitchers this year that have a WAR above 1, and that is Garrett Cole and Shane Bieber. And then there are two other Fangraphs has, but we're just gonna focus on these two right here. I mean, it's so exciting. It's so exciting. Shane Bieber was quoted by saying, "It's exciting. Baseball is a weird game where there's no telling how it's going to end up. Whether it's going to be pitcher's duel, or there's going to be some runs on the board," Bieber told reporters Friday when asked about facing off against fellow number 1 starter. For instance, with that last one with Lucas Giolito, it kind of as advertised and ended up being a fun pitcher's duel. But yeah, I think I can speak for most guys in the starting role. When there's a matchup like that, it's exciting, and you have to see yourself elevate for it and go out there and perform. It's not just that both of the other aces of their respective staff, both Cole and Bieber are strikeout pitchers, and there's plenty of overlap between what they've done lately. Like, for instance, Shane Bieber leads the league in the majors in strikeouts on breaking pitches since the start of last season with 105, and Garrett Cole is 6th on that list with 71. Shane Bieber won the 2020 AL Cy Young Award, and Garrett Cole has 4 top 5 finishes in Cy Young Award voting. So they're both 2 former University of California system attendees, and they haven't faced off in the regular season before. However, they did meet in the 2020 playoffs, where Garrett Cole went 7 innings and struck out 13, while allowing two Yankee runs in the victory in Game 1, while Shane Bieber allowed 7 runs over 9 hits in 4 2/3 of his outing. So I mean, it's not like either of these guys. It just depends on, it literally just depends on the day, and that's really what it all comes down to. It's who is on that day, and sometimes it's both pitchers, sometimes it's just one pitcher. It really just comes down to what is going on that day with the certain pitcher, and that's I think that's one of the things that I love about baseball so much. It's that it doesn't matter how much talent you have. You could have all the talent in the world. You could have prepared all, everything that you could have done to prepare, and it still just doesn't matter because you might have a good day or you might have a bad day. You might be thinking that the whole day, you're like, all right, I'm going to come out here, I'm going to have a great day. If you're a position player, you're like, man, I feel like I'm seeing the ball so well right now. I think I'm going to go 4 for 4. And then you go 0 for 4 with 4 strikeouts and end up with the golden sombrero kind of thing. It literally just depends on the day. And I think that's the beauty about baseball. It's that everything can change so fast and it doesn't matter. Like, if you've ever played MLB The Show, and I know I play MLB The Show quite often. I love the new MLB The Show game. But so like right now, I have my Road to the Show player, and he is a two-way player. He is a starting pitcher and then also a shortstop. And if I'm on the mound, if my player's on the mound, I can be really, really good for like 5 or 6 innings, and then all of a sudden in the 7th inning, I'll leave one pitch over the plate, and it gets hit to the wall, and then all of a sudden the wheels just fall off, and I end up leaving the game with giving up 4 runs where before I had given up maybe just 1 or something like that. I think that baseball is so realistic, and especially like in situations like that. And I know obviously I'm talking about a video game, so that's not real, but the principle is still real. It is still very real, and it is still very, very true that things like that can happen so fast. So the Yankees so far this season are 2-2 in Garrett Cole starts, and that's not due to a lack of results from Garrett Cole. He's gone at least 5 innings and allowed 3 runs or less in all of his outings, and he's also struck out at least 8 every time. And he has 39 strikeouts so far, which are, that is a very respectable number considering he's only had 4 starts. And obviously it's not like Shane Bieber or Jacob deGrom, but 39 strikeouts is still good enough to be a league leader right now. And Garrett Cole's 39 Ks through his first 4 outings of the season were most by any pitcher in Yankees history, even surpassing Masahiro Tanaka in 2014 when he had 35 strikeouts. And what does that look like for the first 5 starts? Well, obviously Garrett Cole is 6th on the list right now with only 4 appearances so far. Ahead of him are the 1997 David Cone with 40 strikeouts, 2003 Mike Mussini with 23 strikeouts, the 2019 James Paxton with 43, and then Bob Turley in 1955 with 46, as well as Tanaka with 46 as well through through 5 starts. So that's how many are through 5 starts that he is behind in Yankees history. So sorry if I was a little unclear on that, but that's what it is. I mean, if Garrett Cole strikes out at least 8 batters, his 47 plus would lead that list. So 8 strikeouts would give him the 7th streak in Yankees history of at least that many strikeouts in 5 straight outings. And the only 3 pitchers with such a streak of more than 5 games in that respect are CC Sabathia in 2011, Mike Mussini in 2003, and Rod Guidry in 1978 with 7 straight games like those. These lists are nothing new for Garrett Cole. Obviously, he is one of the best pitchers in baseball, and he has been for a while now. Like in 2018, when he became the 5th pitcher to begin a season with 3 straight games with at least 10 strikeouts. But now going to talk about Shane Bieber. So when Garrett Cole posted 3 straight 10-game strikeouts in 2018, nobody had begun a year with more. And that's not true anymore because Shane Bieber is coming into Saturday's game. So yesterday's, if you're listening when the episode comes out, that would be yesterday. So yesterday's game, going into it, he has the longest streak of 10 games, or of 10 strikeout games. So he enters Saturday riding a 4-game 10 strikeout, or 4-game straight 10 strikeout games. The longest anybody has ever done it since the mound was moved to its current distance back in 1893, according to Elias Sports Bureau. Like that is crazy to me. But like Garrett Cole, Shane Bieber has started really hot before. He struck out 14 batters on opening day last season, coming just one shy of tying the record, and he continues to build on that stat over the course of the. He continued to build on that stat or start over the course of the year and ended up winning the Cy Young Award last year. So this year, in addition to the 10 strikeout games, he also tied the record books for most strikeouts in a pitcher's first 4 appearances with 48 before Jacob deGrom broke that the last night. So for me, last night on the 23rd of April, 2021, Garrett Cole obviously broke that as we went in, or as I talked a little bit about in the last segment where I said that Jacob deGrom has had struck out 50 batters and had finally passed Shane Bieber for the league leading total so far. So what does that list look like through 10 games? Because in addition to the 10 strikeout streak, he also tied the record for most strikeouts in a pitcher's 4 appearances like that. Like I said, putting Shane Bieber and Nolan Ryan in second place before Jacob deGrom passed him. But it does look like that through the first 5 games of the season, Ryan has led the way with 59 strikeouts in 1978, and then Randy Johnson had 55 back in 1999, and then Shane Bieber had 54 last season, which also tied Pedro Martinez's in 2001, and then also Nolan Ryan in 1973. 8 strikeouts on Saturday would give Bieber sole possession of second place on that list, and if he were able to strike out 12, that would make him the first until Jacob deGrom ends up pitching again, and then deGrom would ultimately edge him out. It would probably seem like that. But since Shane Bieber already owns the record for most consecutive 10-game strikeouts to start a season, we can look to other contexts should he reach the double-digit plateau again this Saturday. And the single-season record is 9, and it belongs to none other than Garrett Cole in 2019. But Shane Bieber actually has at least 11 strikeouts in each of his starts this year, and the last pitcher with that streak of at least 5 games with more than 10 strikeouts, can you guess it, guys? Can you guess it? I think it's Garrett Cole. Yeah, it's Garrett Cole. He did that in 2019, and then there have been 10 single-season streaks as such of at least 5. The record is 8 straight games with more than 10 strikeouts by Martinez in 1999. I mean, obviously Pedro Martinez is one of the greatest pitchers of all time, and but the fact that we're comparing Garrett Cole and Shane Bieber, especially Shane Bieber, considering he's so young, like he's going to be dominating this league for a very, very long time. It's really gonna be an amazing day when, just watching these two throw baseballs. It's gonna be so fun. And the fact that we're comparing these two guys to greats like Nolan Ryan and Pedro Martinez and Randy Johnson, like that just goes to show how good these guys are. Like, I wouldn't actually call it a comparison. I want to take that back a little bit. They are on the same lists and passing those same players that they in those records that they had set themselves. And if you're breaking that record and that list, and you're getting on that list and with those greats, there's something that is very special about that. But what could be in store? You never know when two guys come in and face off. Like Shane Bieber faced Lucas Giolito on April 13th, and both guys threw scoreless efforts. Bieber went the whole 9 innings, and then Giolito went 7. but that game didn't feature a run until 2 were scored in the 10th inning, and like at that point, like there was nothing the starters could do about it, and that it just fell onto whichever offense was gonna get a little lucky, honestly. I mean, and if we go over to our actual stats right now, Shane Bieber has a 2.45 ERA. And whereas Garrett Cole has a 1.82 ERA. However, they do both have a record of 2-1 right now. And they both given up the same amount of hits. Shane Bieber has given up 17 as well as Garrett Cole, but Shane Bieber has pitched in almost 7 more innings than Garrett Cole. Garrett Cole has pitched in 24 2/3 this year. Shane Bieber has pitched in 29 1/3. But unfortunately for Shane Bieber, he has given up 8 runs this year, and all of them have been earned, whereas Garrett Cole has given up 6 runs this year, but only 5 of those were earned. Shane Bieber has also given up 3 home runs this year, whereas Garrett Cole has only given up just the 1. And while Shane Bieber and Garrett Cole both have just one hit batter, Garrett Cole has only walked 3 batters, whereas Shane Bieber has walked 10. And, I mean, obviously, Shane Bieber has struck out more batters than Garrett Cole with the 48 that he has. I mean, it's just, this is going to be such a great matchup. It's going to be ridiculous how good it is. I mean, when you really think about it, like, these two teams are... The Yankees are definitely much more talented than the Cleveland Indians right now, and that's why Shane Bieber has such a long leash. It's just because Terry Francona, the Cleveland Indians manager, who just had a birthday this past week, I believe, he is actually just so good at knowing how to use his pitchers. And because he knows how to use his pitchers, and the fact that his team isn't as talented as it once was, just even like 4 or 5 years ago, just knowing that his team isn't that talented, or as talented, I should say. It's not that they're not talented. They actually have a very talented squad up there in Cleveland. But when you know that you have your ace, and he is good to go, and he is fully healthy, and you're taking all the care that you can, you got to let him go as long as possible. And I really love the fact that Terry Francona is letting Shane Bieber go as long as he possibly can let him. And unfortunately for Yankee fans, Garrett Cole is a little bit more of a I mean, I don't want to say like injury bug or anything, but like you got to pay attention to his health more than you do have to Shane Bieber, at least as of right now. And part of that is just because of, innings pitched last year, the time in between last season and this season, if he's healthy, all that stuff. And it's really important to just make sure that your team is as healthy as possible. Like if you look at Tampa Bay and you go to their injured list, it feels like it scrolls for like forever. It just feels like it scrolls. It's like 60-day DL here, day-to-day here, day-to-day here. It's ridiculous, like how many injuries that they have right now. And unfortunately for them, it's just that they don't have any time to, or they don't have as much time to get healthy in a division like that. And whereas if the Indians lose Shane Bieber, it's likely they're not going to the playoffs anyway. But without Shane Bieber, there's no way that they're getting to the playoffs. So they have to win the games that he pitches in. Whereas Garrett Cole doesn't necessarily have to. You don't necessarily have to win the games that Garrett Cole pitches in, because you have a better. I don't want to say better staff. They have a very good staff in New York, but they also have a very good staff in Cleveland. I really don't know, if it's too early or not to see who actually has a better staff right now, overall. But I mean, the Yankees have so much more talent right now than everybody else. It's kind of crazy. I mean, or at least in the American League, it feels like. And right now they're just not performing as well as they should. But right now, in terms of team pitching so far this year in ERA, the Yankees are sixth right now in ERA. They have a 3.32 team ERA, and the Cleveland Indians are in eighth with a 3.63 ERA. It's going to be hard to see who is going to who's going to win this game, but I strongly encourage y'all, if y'all didn't get a chance to go see it or watch the game yesterday, or whenever you're listening to it, go back to it, because I'm expecting this to be a fantastic game. So I really recommend that y'all I really recommend that y'all at least look up the video of these two teams just grinding it out, and these two players just absolutely going at it. So we're going to take a short break in just a second, and we'll be right back with a potential Max Sherzer trade and where his potential landing teams would be. And then after that, our last segment today is going to be my power rankings for this year so far.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
And welcome back, y'all, to the GSMC Baseball Podcast. I'm still your host for today's episode, Patrick Kinney, and right now we're going to be talking about Max Sherzer and his potential trade, because he is definitely a good trade target for a lot of teams that need somebody right here, and I would say that, like, probably... he's probably the best guy right now, at least in my mind. I think that of teams that are probably going to be sellers, I think that he's probably the biggest piece that somebody could go out and get. Obviously, he's a 3-time Cy Young Award winner, and he was vital in helping Washington win its World Series. And Ken Rosenthal and Mark Feinstein of MLB.com, Ken Rosenthal of The Athletic, have definitely speculated that there are some very good chances to get Max Scherzer out of Washington this year. So the Nationals definitely had a very disappointing 2020 season, and they finished last season with a 26-34 record, and in this year they're just right now they are not doing too well either. They're 7-10 right now, so they're not doing great. And they have Juan Soto and Steven Strasburg are on the injured list right now, and without those two guys, I just don't see a really good shot of this team turning it around right now. And Scherzer is getting $35 million, and he can veto trades by way of 10-5 rights. So dealing him is going to be definitely a big complication. And he's an all-time strikeout artist. He's going strong this year. He has a 1.80 ERA and 33 punch-outs this year through the 25 innings that he's had. So he's definitely worth getting
definitely worth trying to get. It's just trying to make the money work, and it's got to be to a team that he likes and that he wants to go to. So we're going to go through a few honorable mentions, and this is thanks to Zachary Reimner of Bleacher Report. I want to thank him for putting together this article because it is super, super good. So he has a few honorable mentions, and I think I might throw a couple honorable mentions in there as well. So right now is I'd say one of the ones that I agree with are the Houston Astros. The Astros right now have they are without Justin Verlander, who is a two-time Cy Young Award winner, and did pitch with him through 2010 and through 2014, and I mean, they could be looking for a co-ace with Zach Greinke kind of thing, sort of like how he and Justin Verlander were, Greinke and Verlander, I mean. But the problem with that is that if they go and get him, it would absolutely, unless they did some serious restructuring of Scherzer's contract, that it would push Houston well over the luxury tax threshold. And Jim Crane, the owner of the Astros, has hinted in the past that he really does not want to go there. He's fine spending some money, but he doesn't want to go over that luxury tax if he really can. Up next is the Twins. They're 7-11 right now. They're fourth in the Central of the American League Central. And the Twins are trying to make it 3 straight American League Central titles, but early struggles with Kenta Maeda and Matt Shoemaker are definitely causing some big worries with their rotation. But the trouble is they are already operating one of the largest payrolls ever, and their bullpen is working on a 4.91 ERA. So they probably should just go out and get several relievers instead of one ace kind of a thing. And I think that is what the Twins need to do. I just don't think, obviously they would prefer to go out and get him, and if their bullpen can turn it around, then that might be what they go and do. But like I said, with that payroll and with that just awful bullpen right now, they definitely need some help in the pitching department. That is for sure. And then another honorable mention is the Philadelphia Phillies. The Phillies are under new leadership of David Dombrowski, and he notably traded for Max Sherzer in 2009 when he was running the Tigers, and so he might try and go get him again. It is possible. And if he wanted to build a super rotation led by Aaron Nola, Zach Wheeler, and then Max Scherzer, that would be amazing, but that would also require the Nationals to deal to an American League East rival, which obviously, if that's their only choice, they might go with. But if they have a say in it, and they meaning the Nationals, they're probably going to try and trade him to somewhere not in their division, so they don't have to face him as much. But it wouldn't be their first choice, but it definitely is a good possibility. Up next is the San Francisco Giants. So right now, the Giants are surprising. I would say right now that they're probably the most surprising team in baseball at the moment. You could go with the Athletics, even though a lot of people predicted them to do well this year, and they just got off to a really rough start. But the Giants right now, I predicted them to just finish kind of around 500. Finish about third or so in the West. I figured they would be better than the Diamondbacks, but maybe not too much better than the Diamondbacks. But the problem is that the arms on San Francisco's radar right now, if the club goes into buying, is probably the Giants probably want hitters. Their offense is really just hitting .219 right now. The team on base percentage is under 300, so it's more likely that they'll probably go and try and get some really good hitters and things like that instead of an arm, which would obviously help them quite a bit. Up next is the Seattle Mariners as an honorable mention. So the Giants and the Mariners are definitely going to look for impact hitters. The Mariners offense is hitting just 212 with the same on-base percentage as the Giants of 296 right now. But the Giants have a clear ace in Kevin Guzman, and the Mariners don't have one right now. I mean, they did have John Paxton, but Paxton is out for the year. And unfortunately for Paxton, because I really wanted him to come back and stay healthy and just show the world what he still has. And unfortunately, it just didn't work out like that this year. And unfortunately for Paxton, it's just not going to be great. The only problem I would say with that is, or with going to the Mariners, is the Mariners need hitters more than they need pitchers. Like right now, they're second in the AL West, and they could easily win that division right now. Obviously, it's gonna be hard to go through the Athletics, but the Mariners have a possibility to do that, and if they go and get Scherzer, that would definitely give them the ace that they really need. The team I want to add in there is the Cleveland Indians, building another super rotation with Shane Bieber, Max Sherzer, Aaron Serval, and Tristan McKenzie. Like if they were to go out and get that would be really impressive. And if the Indians are in a good enough spot where they can go get Max Scherzer, I would say that would be a very, very good idea as well. The only issue with that right now is that the Indians don't like to spend money. The Dolans do not spend money, and it's so frustrating. As a Cleveland baseball fan, you want your team to go out and spend money. You don't want your team to say quote, enjoy him, when talking about a homegrown star player that the entire city and everybody who cares about that team care for. But right now, the Cleveland Indians are ranking 24th in offense in batting average. They're hitting 207 right now, and plus, so with that on top of what the of what everybody is really talking about with the Indians, and that they don't spend money, it's like to go and get a guy that you'd have to pay $35 million a year to have him. I just don't see Cleveland doing that, even though I think that he would make their team so much better. And trust me, I try to take out my fandom as much as possible, and I think I do a pretty decent job of that. But what I would love to see is, and let me know if I talk too much about a certain team, or I don't talk enough about some teams. I feel like I don't talk a lot about the Angels, and I'm going to talk about them here in a second about going and getting Max Scherzer. But so reach out to us on Twitter, or leave a review on Apple iTunes, or leave a comment on YouTube. Just let us know what you guys are like about the podcast, what you guys don't like about the podcast, so that way we can try and give you guys the best experience possible to everybody listening. So and for the next team I want to talk about is the Los Angeles Angels. Right now they're third in the AL West right now, and pitching wise they came into the season hoping Dylan Bundy and Shohei Ohtani would be standouts for a 6-man rotation. But that's not really working out right now. Bundy has been meh at best. He has a 4.50 ERA through his first 4 outings, and Shohei Ohtani is still dealing with blister injuries. And so unfortunately, he that's really affecting his control. He has walked 11 out of the 41 batters he's faced because of those blisters and his lack of control right now. So, factoring in the rotation's overall ERA, which is over 5, Angels general manager Perry Minsani has a handful of excuses to go get Scherzer. And he has some very good prospects to go and to trade for them. But the problem with this is would Max Scherzer accept a trade to the Angels? they have a straight road to the playoffs, and more so than the Nationals do right now. And if he were, and he would have at least one very good reason to give his approval if the Angels and Nationals try to work something out. But if there's another suitor with a more solid rotation in place, he might try and force out the Nationals to deal with that one instead. So, like, the Nationals might get a really good deal with a whole bunch of prospects and a couple of picks for Max Scherzer. But if somebody like the New York Yankees, who I'm going to talk about here in a little bit, come out with a trade package, he might say, no, I don't want. Even though I know that this one is better for y'all, I think I want to go over here because it's a better team and it's a better rotation kind of a thing. At number 4, we have the Toronto Blue Jays. They have a 9-10 record right now in the AL East, and though the Blue Jays have lost more than they've won so far, it's not really their rotation's fault. Their rotation right now with the team ERA is middle of the pack. It's about a 4.01 ERA, and I mean, to call what Toronto has as a rotation really isn't super accurate. They have, like, Robbie Ray, Steven Matz, and Hyun-Jin Ryu, and they have a 2.51 ERA out of those three. But those are just 3 of MLB's different starters that they have used because they're just hurt right now. And the simple solution in this involves Nate Pearson, Ross Stripling, and some other injuries of their pitchers that they just got to get healthy, really, and because of that, like it's going to be interesting to see if they're able to do that. And this team has a very good offense. So if Scherzer wants to go to a team that has a really good offense and the Blue Jays put together a potential package, this is absolutely a team that I think Scherzer would take. And I mean, he I think 100% would go to the Blue Jays if like that was one of the better options. Up next is the St. Louis Cardinals, and I would say it's probably be like either the Cardinals or the Reds, I would say, out of the Central. I mean, the Cardinals reportedly went in the spring and they traded for Nolan Arenado, but even then their starting pitching has sort of like a crack in their foundation right now. And the Cardinals starters have a 5.04 ERA. And Dakota Hudson is can't pitch right now because he's recovering from Tommy John surgery from 2019, and Mike Moukless has a sore shoulder that is trying to get healed up right now. So right now, like at this moment, it's just like with a lot of teams, the Cardinals right now are just injured, and it's hard. Scherzer is from St. Louis or around that area, and if the Cards want him, he might go to his hometown team to try and help them win a World Series, and that's as good of a story as any, right? I mean, Adam Wainwright is another veteran. They have a young ace with Jack Flaherty, and they like those 3. I'd be scared to face those 3 in a 5-game series. Up next is the Boston Red Sox. So right now the Red Sox are in first in the AL East. They were nobody's favorite, obviously, to come out of the gates this hot this season, especially. And people did expect them to beat the Orioles that first series at least. But since they got swept in that series, they have definitely bounced back. They have a 13-8 record, but their starting rotation is not great. They have a 5.06 ERA out of their starters, not named Nathan Eovaldi and Eduardo Rodriguez. And it's anyone's guess when Chris Sale is going to come back from Tommy John surgery. Regarding those potential deals, though, Boston is already up against that luxury tax threshold, but since the club's penalties reset last year, John Henry might give the chief of baseball operations, Chan Bloom, the go-ahead to pursue Scherzer if the club is still leading that division late in the summer. And the Red Sox could definitely pique Washington's interest with a couple of really good prospects like first baseman Tristan Casa or second baseman Jeter Downs. And then it would be up to Max Scherzer's approval at that point in time. But the number one team that we're going to talk about today that are probably the most likely team to trade for Scherzer, at least at this point in time, is the New York Yankees. They're dead last in the AL East right now. Their bullpen is pretty much unhittable. They have the best ERA in the bigs right now at 2.08. They have some of the best hitters in the game as well. But the Yankees should be worried about how everybody who is not named Garrett Cole out of their starting rotation. The other four starters, aside from Garrett Cole, have a 5.34 ERA, and Corey Kluber and Jamison Talion specifically have not picked up the slack so far this year. And honestly, I didn't think that Corey Kluber was going to come in and pitch that well anyway, but I thought he would have been better than what he has been, and that is a very important distinction. I mean, but like the Red Sox, the Yankees are up against that threshold, but the Yankees haven't been to the World Series since 2009, and they are one of the best teams in baseball right now. And I think that Yankee fans and Yankee entitlement and the fact that the Yankees are willing to spend money to go get guys, I definitely think that the Yankees are probably the best team, or the most likely team, I should say, to try and go and trade for Garrett Cole. So we're going to take a short break right here, and then I'm going to come back with my power rankings so far through this season.
Want to know the latest in soccer? Then listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast. From MLS, the World Cup, and the Premier League, we've got you covered. The latest updates, the hottest matches, and news on the league's top players. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast.
David Beckham scores the goal to take England all the way to the World Cup finals.
Listen now.
And welcome into this last segment of today's episode. My name is Patrick Kenny, like I said, so we're going to be going through my power rankings, and we're going to rank every team so far. So at number 30 right now, we're just going to get right into it, the Colorado Rockies. So they are definitely not the best team in baseball, and I don't think that is even a question. They've only won 4 games so far this year, and it's not looking like they're going to win many more. They had a decent start to the season where I thought that things might be not as they seem, but the Colorado Rockies are a very, very they are not a team that you're going to try and go out and watch this year, and that's all I can really say about them right now. At number 29, I have the Chicago Cubs. So they finally kind of came out of the woodwork to try and win a few games so far this year, but I definitely think that the Cubs right now they're just not doing great. I mean, like they have sort of come out of the cellar a little bit, but they are in second. They're winners of 4 in a row so far this year. But even with that being said, I just don't trust the Cubs. And I'm sorry to all the Cub fans out there. I just don't trust the Cubs right now. And even though they're in second in the division, I still just don't trust them at all. And maybe if they keep winning, I will be completely wrong, and there's a very good possibility for that. But right now, I just don't trust the Cubs. At number 28, I have the Pittsburgh Pirates. The Pirates right now, they are not doing great. They're getting outscored by a lot of runs. and they're 9-11. They're still in the division race, which is kind of amazing, but that's how close the Central Division is right now, the National League Central, I should say. So I have them at number 27 for just the reason that, kind of like the Cubs, I just don't trust them, and while I do have them in front of the Cubs, I probably shouldn't, but I just don't trust the Cubs right now, and I don't know why, But at number 26, I have the Washington Nationals, and you might say, wow, you're kind of picking on the National League right now. Well, I think that aside from maybe the Rangers and maybe even Detroit, like, I just don't. I think the bottom teams in the National League are just so, like, they're just so far away, I think. And so I have the Nationals here and in 27th, I believe, just because I have. I mean, they're getting outscored right now. Their run differential is minus 26, and they're minus 26 because their bullpen just is not great right now. And moving along after them, I have the Detroit Tigers. The Tigers started off the year very well. In fact, winning the series against the Cleveland Indians, which nobody, including myself, really expected them to. But since then, they have just not performed at the capability that they were playing at to start the season off. And because of that, I think that, like, I just don't have a lot of faith in Tigers. It's obviously a rebuild year. And I do apologize for throwing the Cubs in so low, but I just wanted to come back on that for a second. But they are winners of their last 4 in a row, and I could be completely wrong. And if you are, or if I am, let me know about it. And I trust me, I am wrong all the time, as we've seen so far this season. But so I mean, I think if the next time I do this, they're definitely going to be higher on the list. But right now, I think that. I don't think they're actually the 29th best or worst team, or 29th ranked team in the power rankings. Honestly, I would put them probably higher, around 20 or so, but I just don't trust them, and I just can't get over the fact that I don't trust the Cubs right now, so I think that's why I put them so low. But moving on past the Tigers, I have the Rangers, and the Rangers are awful. They are awful this year. I mean, their record doesn't necessarily reflect that. They're 9-11. They're just 2 games back out of 500, but they're getting outscored by 13 runs right now. Their run differential is 13. They're not scoring very much. They're giving up like an okay amount, not the most, but considering like how many runs that they have given up versus how many runs that they've scored, it's not a lot. Like they don't have the worst offense in baseball by any means, any stretch of the imagination, but it's not the best. It's not even close to the best. It is more toward down the bottom half of the offensively. And then we go from Texas to Arizona for the number 24 is the Arizona Diamondbacks. I have them there. I mean, they're just not impressive at all. Like, I don't think that they're even, I don't see why or how they would be any kind of impressive to anybody. They're 9-11. I mean, it's still early. We've played, some teams have played 20 games, some teams have played 22, and then if you're a Mets fan, you've played like 15. So, I mean, it kind of is what it is at this point with record-wise, but I'm not too high on Arizona. They're 5-5 out of their last 10. They're 5 games back out of first, 2 games behind in the wild card. I don't expect them to be a playoff team this year. I expect them to be about 500. But if they turn it around, something that could absolutely happen. And I don't want to necessarily count them out, but the Diamondbacks just, I don't think have, aside from like Ketel Marte, I just don't see them doing really anything special, and right now they're just kind of hovering around the middle of the pack, and that might be because they're in a tough division, and I might be being a little bit too hard on them. They do have a very good offense, but their pitching staff is awful. They've given up 108 runs this year, and they've only scored 104. I mean, granted, that's not a big difference, but when you compare it to teams like the Dodgers, who have scored 97 runs but only have given up 65, that's a huge difference. So that's why I have the Diamondbacks at 24. Up next, I have at number 23 the Houston Astros. Sorry about that. The Astros, they're falling off right now. They are winners of 2 of their last 2. However, they are 3-7 in their last 10. They're not doing great right now. They just aren't getting things done where they need to get done, and unfortunately, it's just not looking like it's going to be their year unless they unless they flip it around somehow. And unfortunately for them, I mean that really is unfortunate. But if they don't turn things around fast, I don't expect them to win the division or even make the playoffs. Up next, I have the Cincinnati Reds at number 21. At 21 is the Cincinnati Reds. The Reds are 9-10 right now. I have them, even though technically because of the head-to-head they are in front of the Cardinals. I do have the excuse me, I skipped number 22. Number 22 is the St. Louis Cardinals, and the Reds are at number 20. They're right next to each other. And the reason is they have identical records. The Reds have a better offense. They've scored 115 runs this year, and they are still plus 16 in the run differential category. But they are losers of their last 5. They have lost 5 straight games, and the Cardinals are have won 4 out of their last 10, so they're 4-6. And their run differential is okay. Their run differential is -1. That's not great, but it's not terrible. But I almost put the Reds. I really almost put the Reds behind St. Louis, but because of how good their offense is, the Reds' offense right now or their Reds' problem right now is just the bullpen. If they can fix their bullpen, there's no way that they don't win that division. If they can fix that bullpen, I believe that they'll win the Central for sure. Up next, after the Cardinals and the Cincinnati Reds, at number 20, I have the Miami Marlins. The Marlins are 8-11 right now, so their record is a little bit worse than the Reds. But the only reason that the Reds are as low as they are is because they haven't won in a while. They are losers of their last 5, like I said, and they're 3-7 out of their last 10. They're not playing great baseball right now, at least not what we saw at the very beginning of the season. And Miami is playing about average baseball right now. Like they're okay. They are 5-5 out of their last 10. They have lost 2 out of their last, or they have lost their last 2. I will say that, but I mean, they're 2 games back out of the National League East. This division is very weird because of COVID and everything. And a lot of some teams aren't playing their games. Some teams are playing their games. And it makes for a very weird division where Miami could absolutely easily still come back and win. But time will tell. Time will tell for sure. And that's going to be, I really think that's really ultimately what it's going to come down to is just time. We'll finally see, we'll see what happens. I don't think Miami is going to be buyers or sellers at the trade deadline. I think that they'll probably be. I mean, they might try and make a move, but I feel like at that point they might be out of the race for a little bit. But I don't know. So at number 19, I have the Minnesota Twins, and I have them at number 19 just because they're not playing well right now. They're 2-8 out of their last 10. Granted, they did win their last game, but their offense is supposed to be one of the best offenses in baseball, and yet their run differential is negative. Granted, it's -1 right now, but it's still negative. That still counts. They're not playing well. Their rotation is just a mess, and their bullpen is worse than their rotation, and they're not playing good baseball right now. They're not performing well, and that's why they're in 4th place of this AL Central, a division that is, while competitive, it is very winnable, especially for teams like Minnesota and the team I have right in front of them at number 18, the Cleveland Indians. Cleveland's 8-10 right now. They are 3 games back out of first. They're a game up on Minnesota, but they've won 3 out of their last 10. They've lost 3 in a row. Their offense is abysmal. They only have 68 runs scored on the season. Granted, their pitching staff is amazing, and they've only given up 71. But when you think about it, but when you're not scoring runs, it's hard to win. Ask Jacob deGrom. He knows. He gave up 1 or 2 runs in one game, and I think only one of those was earned, and it still ended up with the loss. If your team isn't scoring runs, it doesn't matter how good your pitching staff is. You need runs to win the ball game. And granted, obviously, your pitching staff can win a game if your offense only scores 1 run. But sometimes the Cleveland Indians aren't even getting that 1 run, and it's just hard to watch right now. It's hard to watch Cleveland Indian baseball right now because of that. Now, going up to number 17 is the New York Yankees. And I have the Yankees, even though they are in last place out of the AL East. They're 8-11. They've won their last 2. Their offense isn't doing amazing right now, but I think they're starting to turn it around. And I really do think that they're starting to turn it around. And I hopefully they will. At number 16, I have the Baltimore Orioles. They are 8-11. I have them, or they have the same record as the Yankees, but I put them just ahead of the Yankees right here for the sole reason that nobody expected Baltimore to only be 4 games out and tied for 4th place at this point in the season. And I think there's some merit to that, and they're definitely winning some games that they probably shouldn't necessarily, but I like them. They're kind of a fun team to watch, and I mean, obviously, I think the Yankees are turning their stuff around right now, and I think that they'll probably be at the top of the division here before long. But I wanted to give the Orioles like a little bit of a bright spot kind of thing. Like, hey, here you go. You guys are doing well. You get 1 spot ahead of the Yankees in the GSMC baseball power rankings. At number 15, I have the Philadelphia Phillies, and the Phillies are doing okay this season. I have the Phillies and Atlanta at 15 and 14 respectively. They have the same record. Atlanta gets the edge just because they're a little bit more hot right now. They've won their last 2, whereas Philly lost their last game. Atlanta has a 0 run differential, and Philly is -7. Really, Philly is just not scoring enough runs like they need to. Atlanta is scoring a bunch of runs, but they're not they're giving them right back, and that's basically why they're essentially a 500 team or just below 500, and that's why they are where they are at. At number 13, I have the Chicago White Sox. Not necessarily a surprising team, to say the least, this year. A lot of teams were picking them. I never really understood the hype on them, but it seems to be working out. Their starting pitching is doing fantastic. They're hitting the heck out of baseball. They have a +16 in the run differential category. And what's really impressive about that is they're the only team in the AL Central that is positive in the run differential category. It's kind of funny, honestly. They're winners of their last 2. They're 6-4 out of their last 10, and they're just a game and a half back behind Kansas City right now out of first place. At number 13, I have Toronto. At number 12, I have Toronto. And the Blue Jays are the Blue Jays. The Blue Jays. Yeah, the Blue Jays are right about where other teams are in this ranking. They are just under 500. They're positive in their run differential, and they're winners of the last 2, but they're still in 3rd place right now because they got off to a rough start. At number 11, I have Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay is 500 right now. They are losers of their last 2, but I think it's impressive that, considering how beat up they are, that they're doing as well as they are. So that's mostly why I have them up there. At number 10, I have the Los Angeles Angels. They're playing .500 baseball right now. Unfortunately, they've lost their last 3 straight, and they're 3-7 out of their last 10. But I think that the Angels are going to turn it around very soon. And I don't know if or how long it's going to take them, but I do think that they'll get there eventually. At number 9, I have the Milwaukee Brewers. The Brewers are in first place of the Central. They're out of their last 10, they're 6-4. They did lose their last game, but they're still in first place by a game, and I think that's really a good spot for them to be in. They're hitting the ball well. They're not giving up many runs, and I think that they're just doing a good job. At number 8, I have the Mets. The Mets, the only reason that they're this low, they are 8-7, so they're barely above .500, and they are getting outscored. But the reason I have them here is instead of maybe higher or lower is just because I don't really know much about the team yet. They've only played 15 games, and that's the biggest reason why they're there. At number 7, I have the Kansas City Royals. The Royals are 7-3 out of their last 10. They're in first place in the Central. They're not getting outscored by a whole bunch of runs, so that's really why they're there. They're winning games, and that's pretty much all there is to it. At number 6, I have Seattle. Seattle is 12-8. They are battling for first place in the AL West, and they are doing a really good job at it. Their run differential is 0. They're a game back out of first place, but they're a game and a half up on the wild card. So there's a lot of merit to that. At number 5, I have the Boston Red Sox. The Red Sox are 5-5 out of their last 10. They won their last game. They're positive in the run differential, and they're 13-8 and leading their division by 2.5 games. There's nobody that's really that close to them. And I mean, the Red Sox look to be like a good team this year. At number 4, I have the Padres. The reason the Padres aren't any lower is just because I think that they've had a tough schedule this year, and I think that it's going to be fun to watch them grow. And they're 4-6 out of their last 10, yes, but they are 12-10 overall, and they're still positive in the run differential category. And I think that is I think that's important. Up next, at number 3, is the San Francisco Giants. The Giants are 13-7. They're 7-3 out of their last 10. They've won 2 straight games. They're 2 games up in the wild card spot and just a game back from the Dodgers of the division. And the Dodgers are doing very well this year. The Dodgers are actually in second place in my power rankings. Their Dodgers are 14-6. They're 6-4 out of their last 10. They have lost 2 straight, but they're positive. They're plus 32 in run differential right now. I think that they're doing a very good job this season. But the only reason that they're not first is just because Oakland seems unstoppable right now. Oakland is 13-7. They're winners of their last 10. They have out of their last 10, they have won all 10 baseball games and haven't lost a game in 12 games, at least of the time of recording this. And they were minus over 30 after their first series, and they have gotten it back to a 0 run differential. That is so important. And so that's my power rankings, guys. Let me know what y'all think. Leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. Follow us on Spotify. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Leave a comment on the videos. Let us know how we're doing, what we can do to make this show better. So thank you guys so much. Y'all have a great rest of y'all's day. Peace.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Baseball Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.